Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Shahid Durrani. Today we have with us Lindsay White. But before we begin, if you could please subscribe, comment, share if you find value in our show and this episode. But Lindsay, could you share with the audience to understand what you do, and also if you could share where you currently stand when it comes to revenues or overall growth, whatever you're comfortable with?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm super
My pleasure.
excited to be here and have this chat with you today. So I am a fractional chief people officer. I'm a leadership and executive coach, and I'm a culture expert. And I work largely with organizations that are at that inflection point of growth. They're looking to scale, and they recognize that the team they have today is not the team they need in order to grow. They really want to have their team grounded in very solid leadership. And they also want to preserve their culture so that people have a really great place to work and deliver. So that's the work that I do. And I think that actually those are three really important levers of growth: leadership, people strategy, and culture. And I think they're often, to some degree, ignored. Right. When we think about growing, we think about marketing or maybe finance. What kind of investment do we need? But we often don't think about taking a strategic approach to our talent, how we are going to lead that growth and what our business demands of us as a CEO. And then what kind of workplace do we want to create that encourages people to deliver their very best? So I firmly believe that those are three really key elements when we're thinking about growing our business.
Mm. And founders, when they're scaling past, say, 10 to 20 employees, they find themselves working a lot more because
Yes.
they feel like, they're the only ones um, that could answer the queries and be there for everyone, right? So they become their own bottleneck. So how do
Yes.
you stop being the bottleneck in your business?
Yeah. I think that that is a really great question. And I think it's a really common one, right? So there's a couple things that I think are really important elements in really enabling founders to actually step away from being the bottleneck. The first one is, I think you need a people strategy. You really need to think very clearly about who do you need on your team? What do you need them to do? When do you need to hire or bring them on? And then who is the right human to be fitting with your organization? And when we think about that in a very strategic way, as opposed to, I just got all this work on my plate, I'm so overwhelmed, I just need a set of hands. One is very reactive, one is very proactive and strategic. I think that's the first part. The second part is we have to take a hard look at ourselves. What is our business demanding of us? And recognizing, first step, that we are the bottleneck. I think that that actually can be a tricky point to recognize that actually you've kind of created the monster a little bit. And then thinking about, okay, what is it that I actually need to be doing in order for my business to grow properly? Often that's things like the business development or really interacting with the clients to understand, or what is our data telling us? And we then need to think about, what are the things that I actually need to step away from? What is somebody else actually going to be better and more efficient at doing? Right? It's work I probably don't, shouldn't be in anymore. When we can think about that in a very strategic and thoughtful way, we can elevate our leadership. And I think that that is really key in order to then actually bring that people strategy to life. So the two things work really closely together.
Hmm. But what would you do with someone, or a founder, I mean, that maybe doesn't even realize or doesn't want to
Yeah.
admit that they could be the bottleneck?
Yeah.
Is
And
that
I will
common?
tell, yes, it is. I have founders come to me a great deal and say, I just don't understand why my team isn't performing. Why aren't they taking accountability? Why am I, everything still lands on my plate? How do I change this? And I'll give you an example. I had a client, we started working together late last year. And when she came to me, that was exactly her complaint. It still feels like I'm, working a lot, even though I've got this great team. I feel like I've hired really smart people that are capable. They're just not taking accountability. And so, what we did to start with is we actually did a discovery. What's really happening? Who does she have on her team? What are their skill sets? Why, when, and why did she hire them? And then really thinking about on the other side, what is the work that she feels is really overwhelming for her? And through those conversations, we had a series of conversations to really unravel that. And what we were really able to pull out is that it was hard. It was really challenging for her to let go of some of that work. That was work that she started, like, that's her expertise. She started doing that work 20 years ago in a corporate role. Then she started her own business because she wanted to do that better. And it was challenging. So there was some, deep work for her to do, deep discovery work to understand how letting go of that work actually was perhaps letting go of some of her expertise, and that was okay, that she could do that. And then we made sure that we had the right people to deliver, the right expectations, clarity around what she really needed to hear and to see, and what success looked like. And what we created was some really great communication channels. She still could feel connected to the work, but she didn't have to deliver it every day. And that really helped her actually, first of all, understand why she was the bottleneck, and then create a team that could really deliver for her. And she could still feel like she knew what was going on in her business. And that's what's really important.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there's a component of trusting others as well? Maybe there's founder has a great team, but they still want to continue doing everything, even though they have a good team.
Yeah.
But what do you see in that in your professional opinion? Is it a trust factor? Is it a letting go factor? Is it something internal?
Yeah. It's a little bit of all of the above. So some of it is about trusting that you do have the right people. And the reality is a lot of founders hire because they're feeling overwhelmed. So they hire reactively. And they may not be certain when you go out and
Mm,
you just hire to fill the
good
hole to
point.
complete the task. Do you actually have the right individual? That's number one. Number two, it's about trusting yourself. And I think that that's actually key. I don't know founders that really trust themselves to give up, especially for a lot of us. I mean, this is our life's work. I get it. This is my passion too. So we have to trust ourselves that we have created the right structure, strategy, and system, and we've actually got the right experts working for us, and then trust ourselves to communicate effectively. And I think that that is absolutely key in making sure that your team has the accountability and the ownership they need, and that you have the communication and the information that you require to feel like you can trust them and trust yourself.
But it starts by trusting yourself, right?
It
And
has to.
that is a key component here. Can you talk a little bit more about trusting self? So say if someone
Yeah.
out there that is struggling with that, how would you help them?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, as founders, it can be very challenging. We get to, especially that space where we're looking to grow, and it feels very uncertain, right? It feels very risky. And of course, it's very personal. Again, we put our blood, sweat, tears, most of our life savings into these businesses. It is deeply personally meaningful for us. And so what we have to do is recognize that how much of ourself we are bringing to the table. And also, I think there's a process in which we have to disconnect, right? We bring a lot of our self-worth through what we do. We define ourselves just like I did, fractional CPO, culture expert. That's a lot of our definition. And so when I'm coaching with an executive, with a CEO, with a founder, that's a lot of the work we do is really understanding where are those connections. So, for example, a client I'm working with right now, she's having trouble letting go, right? She's really having trouble allowing her team to have the accountability, have the ownership. And a great deal of that is tied up in how she, identifies herself and her self worth. And if I'm not doing that work, then what am I doing? So that we spend a lot of time really understanding where can we bring the value? Where can we find that satisfaction, that passion again? And so that work is really valuably done in the coaching. And then creating that strategic approach to the talent so that we understand who do we have? What's the value they bring? And how can I coach them to elevate to that next level? And I'll tell you, we've been doing that work, this client and I, and her team has absolutely risen to the challenge. She feels a lot more comfortable and confident now in how she is operating as the CEO of her business, which is amazing to see.
Mm. So, Lindsay, in your expertise, um, what is your point of view on living from the end, per se? Is
Mm,
to desire what you would like your company to look like, and then
yeah.
sense that is possible, and that extreme level of self trust to know it's on its way, where the day to day troubles and problems, you look at them with a more fun lens than a chaotic lens. Your perspective
Yeah.
changes for your company and the people you work with, even the environment, right? So, what is your opinion? Do you have any experience on that realm, or?
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
my personal philosophy is that you always have to start with the end in mind, right? And if you
Mm.
don't have, as the CEO and founder of your business, if you don't have a vision for 3 years or 5 years, maybe even 10 years down the road, what do you want this to look like? I also think, what do you want this to feel like? Right? What is the sensation? What
Yes.
is what is it actually the embodiment of that,
Yes.
that vision of yours? I
Hmm.
actually think that that is so important. And I think a lot of founders, we get so head down in the day to day and so caught in the weeds. Again, we're that bottleneck. Every decision, every question, every problem runs through us. We actually have to be able to elevate to that 50,000 foot view of our business. We have to be able to imagine, what does the future look like for my business, for me, for my team, maybe even how the ramifications for my family. And then I think the key is we have to be able to tell that story. We have to be able to bring that vision to life for everyone on our team. That's what gets them passionate and motivated
Yes.
and committed. And if we can do that really well as a CEO, if we can think about that as one of our jobs, that we have to help our team connect the dots to the big vision that lives in our head, I think that there is real power in that. That's what creates cultures where people are engaged and they're passionate and they want to do their best work. I think that that is absolutely critical. We can also reverse engineer our strategy to that. If we know in 5 years that we want to be an 8-figure business, what does the team need to look like to get us there? And we can plan that out with milestones. It's
Yeah.
not going to look exactly the same. I mean, we know that
Yeah.
we're entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
things are going to
Yeah.
change. But what we can do is actually create the strategy for our team and for ourselves as the most senior leader to get us there. And I think that
Well,
that's actually what makes the vision real.
well said, Lindsay.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and it makes it just makes everything so much easier, I feel,
Yeah,
because now
it
the
does.
path is clearer. Obviously there's other aspects of the
Yeah.
individual, the founder, that needs to be worked on, but
Yes.
the idea of it, on a, even if you look at it as a strategy or a mindset strategy, it simplifies things, because now the ideas that are needed, and like you just mentioned about
Yes.
reverse engineering and just knowing what you need to do,
Yeah.
those ideas start becoming much more clear than you would trying to figure things out from where you are right now.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
true.
And
I Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I had a call with a client. She's also a
Hmm.
colleague, someone I connect with. We actually developed her people strategy more than 2 years ago. And she
Hmm.
said to me, just as we were catching up, she said, Lindsay, it's a document I come back to over and over again. Now, what my services look different. My team looks a little bit different. The business focus has shifted slightly. She said, but I come back to that people strategy because it gives me the clarity. It helps me remember, okay, this is what I'm trying to build. This is who I need to help me. These are the spaces where I have expertise. And these are the spaces where I can't be the smartest person in the room because that means we're in trouble, right? And I think it's such a valuable way to think about your business at that next level and anticipate the growth, not just react to it.
Yeah, and this reminds me of another question that came up in a comment for another guest on LinkedIn, and they were asking about how, and I would love to ask you in your
Mm,
professional opinion as well, how do you know if, for example, someone is a founder is at a outdated mindset for what he's
mm.
trying to achieve in his business when you first meet them?
Yeah. I think my own therapist said it best. She said last week in a session, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the
Yeah,
same thing over and over again and expecting a
so
different
true.
response. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's very true for us as
Mm.
founders, right? 'Cause I'm a founder too. Like I get it. I
Yeah.
live it every day. When I
Yeah.
see a founder that continues to sort of beat their head against the brick wall and wonder why no one else, why isn't my team taking accountability? Why is no one else taking ownership? Why doesn't everybody love this business as much as I do? Well, because it's not
Yeah.
their business. It's yours.
Yeah.
It's not their life's work. It's not their passion. It's yours. Now, there's ways that we can actually get your team to really engage at the next level and to bring their best work for you, to really feel connected to what you're trying to build. But they're never going to love it as much as you do. That's just not a thing, right? Again, your blood, sweat, and tears. But what we can
Mhm.
do with founders like that is really help them understand what does motivate their team. What is important to the people they're working with, and how, as the senior leader, can they actually leverage that to help people see what is success here for you? How can I help you grow? How can I
Mhm.
help you live your values every day? How can this
So,
organization accelerate what you want to accomplish in the world? That's engaging for people.
so on, just to continue that, how would
Mhm.
you help someone in developing that culture in the company where they feel more part of something special?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great question. And there's a couple steps. I mentioned earlier feeling, first of all, feeling connected to the story, to the vision. What are we trying to create here? I think the mission. What is the change we want to make in the world? What's the impact? I think when people have clarity on those things, those big ideals, they can actually feel how the work they do today has that impact tomorrow. I think also it's our values and how we bring those to life in terms of behavior. What is the expectation for me? How do you need me to show up? And when I don't show up that way, how do you give me that feedback in a way that helps me grow? I think those are things that help people really understand in our organizations what we want them to do and how we want them to perform. I think the other part is connection. Simple, old fashioned, realistic, human to human connection. I want to listen to you. People want to feel seen, heard, and understood. And I have a leader I'm coaching right now, and that's what we're working on. Because again, we get so busy. We got a million things to do. The tasks are never done. How can we create space for this leader so that they have opportunity to really connect and ask great questions and use their ears and their mouth in the proportion they exist on their face? Listen more. What is my person telling me? What is the information they have? What do they need from me to deliver their best, then speak and offer information or feedback or ideas. I think that that's the best way that we create real culture on our teams as the CEO of our business.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
continuing on that point, how you mentioned, they doing more of the listening
Yes.
rather than trying to train and teach all the time or speak
Yes.
all the time about the business, but hear more of their perspective. That is it drives me to the next question about over involvement, right? Over
Yes.
involvement, I feel it weakens the team's creativity.
Yes.
It because human beings are so incredibly special,
Yes.
and when we over involved, they don't even feel like at times to even speak up, right, or even give
Yes.
their ideas. But if you
Yes.
create a culture where you kind of promote them to bring their ideas, no matter what kind of idea it is, no matter what it is, even if you think it's the stupidest thing, bring it to me, bring it up. Don't
Yes.
worry. And so how do you set up something like that, and also to create a more a clear, decision making guardrails for everyone?
Yeah. Yeah, such a great question. When I'm working with a founder and a CEO and they're struggling with that, I mean, that's the first thing I suggest to them. We always think of leadership as you have to be at the front of the room, you have to be the one talking the most and maybe even talking the loudest. And in
Yeah,
fact, I believe that we need to lead from behind and we need to know when to switch, right? But what you're talking about is giving our team space to lead. When we create leadership amongst our entire team, we increase the capacity of our business. And so when we can step to the back of the room, allow our team to talk, to generate ideas, to spitball, to ideate, right? To be creative, and we listen and allow that, we actually are creating incredible momentum.
yeah,
And I was just with a client and their team the other day, and it's hard, right? This CEO wanted to step in. You could tell, you could see the body language, just wanted to jump in the middle of that. And I just sat there and I said, no, just give it space.
yeah.
It's really
Practice.
challenging. Yes. Yes, because we have so many big ideas. And again, we're so passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
But if we can step back and we can listen without formulating the next response or idea in our head, just really lean into the listening, we create an environment where people can develop their own path, they can develop their own uniqueness. That creates incredible innovation on our teams and it creates more leadership in them. And then we
Mhm.
don't have to be accountable for every damn thing in our business.
And we can create an environment of less involvement, or sorry,
Yes.
owner dependency. We can decrease
Owner
that too.
dependency,
So if there's ever a day
right?
to exit, new buyers or people that are
Yes.
going to purchase it, they love seeing that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I want to be clear. I think ownership and accountability are two different but interconnected things. Ownership is what decisions can someone make.
Hmm.
Accountability is really about what they deliver. And we don't have to just turn over. This is what I think our internal
No,
conversation is as founders. Well, we're just going to give it all away and then they're going to screw it up. Well,
no,
they're
you
probably
can
going to
be
make
involved,
mistakes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we need to give them the decisions that are appropriate for their level of development so that they can actually do the work and feel pride in it. And then we need to coach and deliver great feedback if they make mistakes, just like somebody probably did for us. Right.
Mm.
But that allows our team members to grow, to feel pride in the work and the decisions, and actually increases capacity on teams. They can do more
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
step out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for some founders, when operational chaos starts to begin to stall the actual growth of the company,
Yes.
um, so they want to know, especially online, people search for these things, right? The founders, that how do I transition from a founder to a
Yes.
CEO?
Yes.
Can you help with that?
Yes. Absolutely. I think a lot of the organizations that I see have great operations, great systems, and they still can't figure out why. Why isn't this working? Why aren't we growing? Why is this causing me to work 80 hours a week, right? Like what why is every decision landing on my desk? I actually think that that's the moment when we need to slow down just a little bit. I think we get so frantic and we get so deeply worried. Like I don't want to, and I don't want to underestimate that. Again, so important to us, these businesses. But we need to pause and we actually need to assess what is actually going on here. Where is the team at? Are there spaces that, in fact, they are underperforming? Are there accountabilities that are unclear? And I'll tell you, I see that a lot. I had a client a few months ago, nobody actually understood what they were intended to deliver. There were no job descriptions, there was no accountability, there was no conversations, no feedback. The confusion created the chaos. It wasn't the people, it wasn't the systems. It was a complete lack of clarity. So if we can pause long enough to understand, where does the accountability live? Where does the ownership live? And does that need to shift? Do we have the right people doing the right things? Or do we need to make some changes?
Mm.
Those are really powerful opportunities. And when we did this work with my client, she had a small team of like 15 people. Wow, the clarity, the accountability, the ownership shift absolutely changed everything for them. And the
So,
organization was really able to accelerate.
mm. So if
Yeah.
someone's sitting in front of you right now, a client, and
Hmm.
they're facing this clarity issue, can you
Hmm.
give us some kind of a framework that you would go through with them to
Yeah.
create more clarity? Or are there any
Yeah.
specific self-reflection questions that you help them
Yeah.
answer, or is there some kind of a a step-by-step system they go through to bring that clarity? Anything that you can help our audience with?
Absolutely. So I'll share the framework I use with you. And then also, I have my people strategy playbook, and I'll send you the link. You can share it with everyone. It is the step by step framework. So when I'm working with a client, they come to me, my team's not taking accountability, things are going crazy. We've had incredible growth, but everybody's losing their marbles. What we do is we actually spend either a half or a full day together going through this process. So we start with, what is the vision? 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. What do you want this thing to look like? Do you have an exit in mind? When is that? What does that look like for you? Let's build that out. Most founders don't stop long enough to even articulate it. We talk about the mission. What are you trying to change in the world? What's the impact? What are your values and what are the behaviors? What do you need to see from people to know that they're going to deliver properly for you? Things like integrity, doing the right thing, right? That is really crucial. It's foundational in your culture. Then, as the founder, what's the work you love to do? What lights you up? What gives you passion? What's the work you hate? If you never did that work again, you would die a happy human, right? What's the work that you probably still need to be involved in? And let's figure out what that involvement needs to look like and how you feel about giving accountability or ownership to someone else. Then we dive into the team. Who you got today? What do they do? What are their strengths? What are their opportunities? Who do you need for tomorrow? What's your business plan? What are you trying to build? What are the goals? Who do you need on the bus to get there? Because we're going to need some different skill sets and some different levels of experience. That we can craft out. Then we can talk about, okay, how do we want to move this forward? What's the roadmap? What are the milestones? Where do you need to be to accomplish that big, beautiful vision? That done over a short period of time, again, a day, gives incredible clarity, insight, and foresight to a founder who is feeling like everything is chaos. And it's all in that playbook, and I'm glad to share it with you.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and part of that, and thank you for that. That's wonderful. Uh, uh, part of what you do is the identity shift that's required.
Yes.
For scaling. So it's not about just keep hiring more people, right? It's
Nope.
about bringing that shift in identity to unlearn those habits
Yes.
that may be creating a bottleneck or holding them back as
Yes.
individual or even as the organization overall, because
Yep.
it's like a river, right? It goes through all the people that are involved from
Yes.
that founder.
Yes.
Could you speak about that and help the
Yeah.
audience? Yeah.
Yeah. There's an inflection point for us in our business. As a founder, we have to do a lot of the things or all of them. I mean, especially when we first start out, usually we're the chief cook and bottle washer, as they say, right?
Yeah.
As our organization starts to grow, we can't deliver all that work. There simply isn't enough hours in the day. And for most of us, we started our business because we wanted flexibility and freedom. Well, we have the flexibility to work the 80 hours a week whenever we choose, right? Like that's what it becomes. And in fact, that's not what we desired, right? We want to make an impact and we want to have a lifestyle. So I think that is the key shift is really thinking about, okay, what does my business need from me? Who do I need to be? Where are my skills and experience best utilized? Where do I have some gaps and I need to develop? Often that's things like being able to delegate, being clear in our expectations, delivering high quality feedback, right? Actually leaning in when there's crunchy conversations so that I can do that effectively, not disengage someone, but actually show them the investment. I think those are the kinds of identity shifts. And we need to think about ourselves not as the chief everything officer, but as the CEO. And what does that mean? And it's going to be different for everybody because we're all different people and we're going to have different leadership styles. We have to spend the time to explore that. Our business and our team deserve that from us. And I think that that's what's key here.
So it seems like a good chunk of your work is internal with the founder.
100%. Yes, it
Mm.
is. And that's where
So
the coaching
mindset
becomes
is a
really
key
effective.
component here.
Yes. Yeah,
Mm.
and really trying deeply to understand, what do I want to be as a leader? What does
Yeah,
leadership mean to me? We don't
clarity.
ask that question in someone unless someone actually makes us answer it, right? Like that's not
Yeah,
I don't think about that. Well, I think about it every day, but you might not. I mean,
yeah,
fair
yeah,
enough, right?
yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
So, from your experience working with executives or working with
Yeah.
founders, can you share how how to build a business that runs without you?
Yeah. Isn't that the big like multi-million
Yeah,
dollar question?
yeah,
How do I grow and scale a business so that it runs without me needing my constant care and attention? So I think the key to that is, first of all, leveraging and building the right team and doing that strategically. I think second of all is one of our most important jobs as leaders is to create new leaders. We need to create leadership capability in that
mhm,
team. I think we need to leverage technology, including AI. I think that's going to be absolutely pivotal. But we need to have a team that can do that. We know right now AI is awesome, but we need human beings to actually manage the AI outputs, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So we've got to have great humans that are really smart and dialed in to do that. And then I think creating the right systems and structures. Some of those are operational, right? Some of those are really driven by the people. And of course, we need to have a great culture. We got to have a place where people actually want to work, where when they feel really compelled to give their best every day. I think
yeah,
if you have those things in place, that is going to enable you as a founder to slowly step your way back so that every decision doesn't rest on you and the business can run and you can actually go and do your thing, live your
yeah,
life, have the
yeah.
space. Yes.
And Lindsay, the one word that you mentioned that got my attention the most was AI. Right.
Yes.
So yeah, and uh, not to be biased, but that's what we do. We have a team, and what we do is We work with the organization to find out their entire workflows and how
Yeah.
they run their business, especially when they work after um, someone like you, because you
Yeah.
organize everything. So the next step from there is we create these digital employees, not to take anyone's job or anything, but it just helps to amplify the people that are already working in that organization. It makes
Exactly.
things more efficient because these guys decide, they act, these digital employees, they get work done as long as a human is in the loop. And over
Yes.
time, what happens with the human in the loop in that organization, the AI starts becoming more and more accurate at
Yes, of
one
course.
time, that it starts you're okay with it making decisions because you've been watching it so long.
Yeah.
It's like having an employee in your work. In the beginning, there's at your business, at the beginning when they come on, you have them, for example, if there is a clause like that, but if you have them on a probation, you would be watching how they do their work, and then you kind of
Yeah.
let them free.
Yes.
Similarly with AI and the models that are coming out, and they're already out, and the right training in our organization, so we install it in the organization that we go in, so it's not like a cookie cutter where you sign up for a
Yeah.
platform and you know what I mean. So it's more
Yes.
customized to that business.
Love it.
The reason why I was bringing that up, that we love partnering um, with individuals like yourself. So if you ever have opportunities where you want to help scale them with technology, definitely allow us to
Yeah.
do a proposal for them, and there is no obligation. So I'm sorry to do a pitch in there,
No,
but
that's
this
all
is
right.
just from my heart that it came up.
Yeah.
And even when I accepted, when we wanted you to come on the show, it wasn't for this reason. I want to be very clear. It just
No,
came up
that's
now. So
I love that it came up very organically. I
yeah.
really think, I mean, the future is in our technology. I think we all recognize that now. And what I see that the AI is really going to allow us to do is lean into the human work. So we're
Mm.
going to enable our teams with AI platforms, AI tools that are going to allow the humans on our teams to actually do the connected relational work.
And be
And
more
that's
clear. Clarity too, right?
right. I think there's going to be able to be better clarity. But I also believe, we have to garbage in, garbage out. We actually have to do the work to make sure that the tools work for us. But I
Mm.
do believe that it's going to allow us and our teams to do more effective work, the more creative work, the more interesting work, the work that people really love to do. We can free them to do that, but we need to have a strategic approach to who we have on the bus. I think that that's absolutely critical. And AI
Definitely.
included in that. What is the right
Yeah.
tool at the right
Mm.
time,
Yeah.
right?
And the
Yeah,
tools become scattered, right? So what
100%.
when you're working with AI, and if anybody's listening to this, you want to make sure you make it in an environment that's orchestrated, is
Yes.
collaborated,
Yeah.
not tools, because disconnected tools, then you have, and this is really common now, in organizations there's like 100 signups and different people and different
Yeah.
tools, it's just they don't even see the ROI. There's no clarity. You want to orchestrate everything, that you have it on one page, one dashboard, the entire digital workforce, what they're doing for the business, what is the ROI I'm getting from this on a month to
Yes.
month basis. That clarity amplifies a human being, because now they're seeing that, wait a minute, okay, my work is less because of what's happening here. I can take a moment to self-reflect, and I can take a moment to even meditate, during the day, right? To
Yeah.
come up with ideas that we can
Yes.
utilize these digital employees to work harder, because there's no limit. So
100%.
you can get them to work harder with these new creative ideas that they could take to the founder. Now the founder and employees relationships actually amplify, because now these employees are, because remember they're human being, right? So if they come up with these beautiful creative ideas to
Yes.
the founder all the time, and they know how to implement them and execute them much faster with AI and this technology that we have, we're in a beautiful time right now,
Yeah.
that would just build on that relationship.
100%. Well, and our
Yeah.
employees are often the ones that are working with our clients every single day.
Yeah.
They have incredible relationships. Well, if we can enable them to deepen and strengthen those relationships with our clients, within each other, right? Within different, perhaps we have different departments. That's the value add of the humans. While we
Mm.
enable the technology to do some of the work for us in the background, make different connections for us. I mean, shoot, I had my AI platform actually, work as a thought partner the other day, came up with a beautiful idea, like just helps us enhance. I
Yeah.
think all of that is incredibly valuable. And we're going to have to continue to upskill and train our teams so that they can use the tools appropriately. They can really leverage them to deliver the great work. But
Mm.
I think that that's going to be absolutely pivotal. And again, we need to do it strategically. Adding a tool because we think it's cool is awesome, but you talked about ROI. Would tell you the
Mm.
same thing. Adding a person because we're overwhelmed and underwater, we just
Yes.
need a set of hands. That's great, but what's the ROI? How are they
Yeah.
adding real value to our business? How does that
Definitely.
get us closer to our vision? That's what we want to be thinking is strategically. That's the
Mm.
mindset shift that every founder has to make so they can
Mm.
truly be a CEO.
Yeah. So you speak about delegate outcomes, not tasks.
Mhm.
Um, can you speak about that a little bit? We have an idea,
Yeah.
obviously, but we would like to look at it more deeply with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of times, especially when we're working very hard in our growing business, as a founder, we are delegating the task. Do this, do that. Here's a checklist. Get back to me. Tell me when it's done. That's great. But what we actually want to do is delegate what we want it to look and feel like. And this is where we get into trouble as a founder. So I'd like you to take ownership of this project. I need it to look like this, feel like this, respond like this, attract clients in this way. And this is what success looks like when you're done. Okay, now I'm not delegating the tasks inside of that. Maybe I might say, think about this or try that. But I've given them the outcome. This is what I want to see or hear or experience. And they're responsible for the tasks to make that happen. That is meaningful ownership of the project.
Mm.
That's what your really smart people on your team need to do. So I'll give you an example. I have a client, they're going to a huge trade show in the US. And one of the things they'll be doing is this really large presentation to probably several hundred attendees. So the CEO gave this to one of her team members, and they developed the whole presentation, and different people are taking different segments. Great. So they did an initial presentation for the CEO. She started fiddling around with slides. Well, I want to change this, and I want this font over here, and I want this color to be more green instead of yellow. And we actually had to stop her and say, listen, now you're taking on tasks. What we wanted you to do is outcomes. What do you want the response to
Mm.
be to this presentation in this hall of 300 people? Well, I want this, and I want new clients, and we want to book conversations, and we want to answer questions. And I said, okay, we're not managing tasks. We're going to lead the people. We're going to lead the outcomes. And that's what's really meaningful. Because when we start fiddling with fonts and colors and moving things around on a slide deck, that's really disheartening and disengaging for people, right? So
Mm.
that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about don't just delegate the task, delegate the outcome, and then give people the latitude, give them the trust, and communicate, give them feedback so they can deliver for you. That's creating capacity.
Mm.
Yeah,
And hence better growth, because
right.
now you're multiplying yourself, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. And also let it go, right? We have a tendency to be perfectionists, and that turns us into micromanagers. And
So
we actually have to stop that.
so letting go, let's just talk about that because that's a
Yep.
big problem for people,
Yep.
right? And I would love to hear in your experience, how do you
Hmm.
work with someone to help them let go a little?
Yeah. So that mindset, we'll use that word. I also use the language of the saboteur. So the saboteur is that trash talk in our own head. And often I see founders that the conversation is about it needs to be perfect or it's not good enough. The reality is perfection's a myth. It doesn't exist. Nobody's perfect. Like we just cannot achieve that on a regular basis. And my phrase that I use with my clients is the squeeze worth the juice? So imagine you have a lemon and you want to get all the juice out of that lemon. But what do you got to do to squeeze those last 3 drops out? Incredible effort and pressure. And my question is that effort and pressure in the right place on your team right now? Right? Again, we'll use the example of my client with the slides for the presentation. Does it really matter if that font is more green or that color's more green than yellow or that font should be this instead of that? Is the squeeze worth the juice? Because the
Good point.
reality is there's only about 20% of things in our world that need to be quote unquote perfect. The other 80%, actually, if we get that to good enough, it's probably okay. Is anybody going to
Mm.
notice that that font is different or that color is green instead of yellow? No. It's the
That's
quality of the presentation and the data and the information. And so that's what we talk about in the coaching and we unpack that. And I'm very
yeah,
challenging with my clients about really stepping back and examining where
yeah.
is the squeeze worth the juice here? That's the
It's a
conversation we have to have.
Yeah, it's the saying. I believe this is how you say it. It's called "done before perfect," or how do you?
Yeah,
What's that statement?
better. Yeah, I mean, different people say it differently, but
Yeah,
yeah, better done than perfect, or better, right?
yeah, something like that. So
And that's true.
that's a key aspect of execution. It's like part of the art of execution, right? Is that you want to get it to a level where you can just put it out there,
Yes,
and the more you do that, the better results you get because you're doing things, you're taking those chances, so
yes,
in those executions of those ideas. So another question that comes up a lot online is about how to build accountability in small teams.
yeah,
So leaders would say 5 to 10 or 5 to 50,
yep,
whatever,
yep,
just a smaller teams where they don't have an HR structures, right?
yeah. Yeah, I think the key in those small teams, and I work with organizations fractionally that don't have the capacity or the funds to hire a full-time HR person. And so I recognize that that's often one of the first things we do in an organization is talk about where is the accountability an issue? Where do we feel like the accountability is lacking? And again, often there's a couple things at stake. First of all, clarity. Do people actually understand what accountability is and what accountability they own? Because 9 times out of 10, they don't. They really are not clear on what their deliverables are and what success looks like. So that's one of the first things we have to do. The second part speaks to the leadership. So if accountability is the problem, how are you having conversations around this is your task, this is the deliverable, this is the outcome? What's happening? What's the feedback look like? Where is it going well? Where are things a little difficult or where are there roadblocks? Where do you need my help as the leader? And often I find that founders don't have those great feedback conversations. That's
Mm,
part of the problem. And then when things do go sideways, because they always will, that's the nature of a growing business. We have to have courage to step into that conversation with curiosity. And again, this is where the coaching is valuable for a founder. Instead of, what the hell's going on around here? The question is, can you help me understand what happened? Where did things go sideways? Leaning in with curiosity, not judgment. right? And
Yeah.
that's hard. Again, we're super passionate about what we do, want to make sure that our clients are well looked after because then we make more money. But we actually have to learn as a leader how to ask those great questions so we can understand and then support our team to do it differently.
Mm. Man, this is a great conversation. I
Oh,
really
thank you.
appreciate your time, your presence, Lindsay, for sharing. I know you must be busy, and I'm hoping that we brought some value to people out there.